Now we're told budget surpluses are bad for stock investors. Oh, I can't take this. Economists are just crazy to me. So I'm reading a thing a guy had posted. My man Bob had sent this to me. He says, budget surpluses are bad. Budget deficits are good. Or he said, actually, budget deficits are bullish. Budget surpluses are bearish. I'm just like, what? Do economists flip a coin, man? Just admit it. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't, and I don't know what I'm talking. I mean, I know what I'm talking about. Doesn't mean I'm going to be right. I mean, you might know what you're talking about, but come on, man. Can the idea that budget surpluses are negative on stock outlooks, or that budget deficits are bullish? Just, oh my goodness, it's like we're making a correlation, a causation out of a correlation. Just, Hitler breathed air. Trump breathes air. Thus, Trump is Hitler. It's so freaking stupid, man. All right, so let's check this out. We're going to go back to our... all right, so here is... This is basically this is a U.S. government deficits or surpluses here. Here's the debt right here in the red. And I'm going to do another video on this later because I think I've done these videos before, but I just want to hammer. How many people get nervous about this stuff? Like, literally, they get nervous. I'm like, dude, we've been through this a million times. All these economists don't know what the hell they're talking about. Everyone says the dollar will crash eventually. Never heard that before. Never heard that before. Oh, my goodness. And yet, here it is, a dollar strong. All right, so check this out. So I know this seems like there's no deficits. There are. There are deficits just small relative to where we are today. And that's okay. And I'm not going to get in here. But we're going to go into basically 19. All right, so check this out. So you can see the deficits are growing. You can see. So when they go down, that means they're growing. All right, so just starting right there, we had deficits of $14 billion in 1973. All right, then we scroll down. We got right here, 1983 deficits of $195 billion because of Reaganomics. And everyone in the back then was saying, oh, my goodness, we're going to have massive tax hikes, massive inflation. Oh, everyone's saying that. Then we go down here to 1992. We had deficits of basically twice what Reagan had. And then we'll start to see what happens. Oh, this one, Clinton had the full authority of both houses, huge majorities in Congress, plus creepy old Bill Clinton and his crazy wife, Hillary. And they were running the rampant. All right, they're running the whole thing, which is not good. But anyway, you can see right here, we had massive deficits. All right, so our deficits at $254 billion. All right, so this right here was the lowest we've ever had for deficits at that stage. Never had anywhere near a deficit at that stage. What proceeded to happen next? 94, the Republicans take over Congress. All right, so the deficits start winding down. All right, so we go from $290 billion. In the last, basically, that's part. I don't know if that's under. I guess that's under George H.W. Bush, to 254 under not Sniffy Clinton, but Crazy Clinton, and then under Republican Congress with Clinton in there, the deficits actually went to surplus. In fact, we had a surplus, basically break even in '97, a surplus in '98, a surplus in '99, and a surplus in 2000. This guy's argument is that surplus is what busted the internet bubble, the tech bubble. I said we had massive growth in the S&P 500 in the 95, 96, 97, 98. Even though Congress wasn't spending as much as they did previously. They weren't. The deficits were going down significantly, yet we had massive growth in the S&P 500. Not to see that, it's just to be stupid. So to attribute this one data point for the bursting of the tech bubble, it's just this freaking dumb, man. I don't understand. Like, people try so hard to be like, I know what's going to happen. In fact, let's just look at the debt, shall we? So we'll get rid of this one graph. It's embarrassing, man. And we're just going to look at the debt. So we're going to go here, edit lines. We're going to come and get rid of line 1. And we're just going to look at, come down here, delete it. Let me pause it real quick. Now we're just going to look at government debt. All right, so we're going to look at government debt. Now what we're going to do is we're going to format it as a log. We're going to log this guy. Hang tight, because I got to move this. Get out there. We're going to log this. All right. So when you log it, because that will show us percentage from the previous year, we're going to hit this guy right here. And you'll see the government debt during the... So here's the government debt growing massively from 1966 all the way to right there in 1995. And it just basically leveled off. All right, so again, we had an explosion of S&P 500 performance in 1995 to 2000. That's just a fact. So what we could say is, look at this data point. The government debt took off again and the tech bubble burst. That's just stupid, because what would you have to do here to say from 1982 to 1999, the government debt was exploding? All right, so there's a correlation between government debt and growth of the economy. The government debt was a little bit higher, but not much right here. In fact, we can actually go and not log that. There we go. Let's not log it. And you'll see, there we go. So we can go back to 1995, we had 1.8, no, it's 1995 right here. 1993, we had $4.38 trillion of government debt. In 1990, 2000, right there, 1999, we had $5.68 trillion of government debt. So we went from $4 trillion to $5 trillion. We went up basically 20% in those 5 years. And yet the market went crazy. It went crazy good. But then we go to 1982, when Reagan first took over, we went $1.12 trillion of government debt to 1989 when he left, and more than doubled. It went up 2.5%, or 2.5 times, and the markets took off there. So in Reagan's 8 years, government debt went up 2.5 times. In 4 years under Clinton and the GOP, the government debt went up 25%, and yet both markets took off. That's just a fact. It's just, you can't, so there's no correlation there that equals causation. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. And so people say, oh my goodness, but don't you know that debt is taken away from our grandchildren? Well, when? When it actually did take away from our grandchildren, because we had massive increases in government debt back here. In fact, I want to show you guys something. Check this out. Our government debt in 1966. From 1966 to 1981, our government debt went from $322 billion to $990 billion. So in 15 years, government debt increased by 3 times, basically tripling. All right, you hear what I'm saying? So from 1966 to 1981, government debt went from $322 billion to $990 billion. This isn't being paid off. This is just adding to the debt. Even though the deficits were dropping at this point, and debt to GDP was significantly lower over here as well. All right, now no one's going to argue 1966 and 1982 was a great economy. No one's going to say it was. And yet debt to GDP was dropping, as well as deficits, they were dropping. And yet our government debt increased by from 322 to 990, a tripling of government debt. So from 1981 went from 990, and we'll just do the next 15 years, 1981 to 2000, 1995. Yeah, it went from right there, we'll just say 1 million to 1995, 15 years, it went to 1 trillion to 5 trillion. It was that quintupled. Debt quintupled from 1981 to 1995, another 15-year time frame. All right, so debt tripled from 1966 to 1981, and then debt quintupled from 1982 or 1981 to 1995. Which was a better economy? Well, the better economy was 1981 to 1995. It's just a fact, and yet debt quintupled. However, 1990 or 1966 to 1981, debt tripled. And no one's going to sit there and say that was a better economy than the next 15 years. No one said. If you said that, you're stupid. There's just no other way around it. You just don't know what you're talking about. So did debt make that economy go? I don't know, maybe. But it didn't make this economy go. Debt was still growing at a rapid rate of tripling. All right, so now let's go to the last 15 years. That'll be 1999. All right, we had 1999. We had $5.6 trillion of debt. To 2024, we have $32 trillion of debt. So we take 32 divided by 5.6, 32 divided by 5.6, and that's a 5.7 increase in debt. So, all right, so the debt has gone up 5.7 times. It went up 5 times under Reagan to 1995. It went up 3 times under Carter, Nixon. Yeah, Nixon, Carter, basically what it was. A little bit Johnson. 5 times under Reagan and Bush, and to include Clinton. And it went up by 5, almost 6 times under Bush, Obama, Trump, and Sniffy Joe. So we had a huge economy here, not a great economy there, and a okay economy here. Does debt equal economic progress? No. Is debt bearish or bullish? It's just no. We don't know. But I just want to ask you. I'm the grandchildren of the people right here. When am I paying off that debt? When am I paying off? I haven't had to pay that debt off. So these people, my grandpa and Grammy, they were leaving me this burden of debt. That never got repaid. It never did. So I just want to know, when am I going to be burdened by that, because people are saying the same thing back here. I'm not burdened by it. I still get relatively low interest rates compared to what they had to go through. I mean, my goodness, do you not know what the interest rates were back then to get a mortgage? Give me a break. So my interest rate, even though interest rates are higher now, they've been in the last 15 years, are still quite low, relatively speaking. So when do I have to pay this off? When? Well, the dollar's weakened? It hasn't. It just simply is just not true. It's just simply not true. The dollar is, if not the strongest, is one of the probably top 3 strongest dollars in the world. You know, the euro is a little bit stronger. The British pound is a little bit stronger. I think like Sweden or something like that. But we're crushing. So all these doom and gloomsdayers are just wrong, dude. So I just want to know, when do my grandkids have to pay? Well, they have to pay the bill at some point. When? Why? Well, because the deficits are too high. For what? Well, debt to GDP is above 100%. When do the Japanese grandparents have to, grandchildren have to pay? Because their debt to GDP has been up to over 200% for like 15 years. Well, they're different. They're a homogenous society. But economics doesn't care. Economics says if we're going to look at dollars, it doesn't care if you're a Japanese or American citizen spending it. They're just saying, where's the debt coming from? So how is my grandkid, when, where, and how are my grandkids going to have to pay? When, where, and how my dollar's going to be worth less? Well, don't you know your dollar only buys 4 cents what it used to buy in 1990? I mean, 1900. Are people still using that? Are people still using that argument? It might be the dumbest argument there is. The dollar's only worth 4 cents what it was in 1900. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Go ahead and buy me a plane ticket in 1900. I'd just love for you to try doing that. Go ahead and buy me a kilowatt hour of electricity, please. How long did it take for you to get a bushel of apples to work to make enough money to buy a bushel of apples compared to now? Oh, by the way, my wife just got strawberries. There's no strawberry season right now here in Georgia. The strawberry season's well past. Where do the strawberries come from? Oh, we get pineapples in the wintertime? That's crazy. Believe it or not, they don't grow pineapples in the Northeast in the United States. I know it's crazy. In the wintertime, you can still get pineapples. Oh. So that dollar, which is only bought 4 cents today, can buy me a hell of a lot more than it did back then. But we're worse off now. The thing is, no one knows, man. And this whole idea that, oh, this is going to happen, because it's just so freaking stupid. It's so stupid. And just when you hear this stuff, say, how come it hasn't happened in Japan? And they're always going to say the same thing. How come it hasn't happened? How come it didn't happen here? How come well, it was a different time then. Okay, so if there's an exception, there's no rule. Because the exception is always why it didn't happen like you predicted. The economists, I'm saying. Economists say 2 plus 2 is 4, except when it's 5. Well, that doesn't make sense. How come it's 5? Because, basically Japan's a homogenous society. Okay, but 2 plus 2 is 5 in that case, but it's 4 everywhere else. Yes. But I also have other examples where 2 plus 2 is 5. Well, that's another. Oh, it's so damn frustrating. All right. God bless. Love your thoughts. Paw that like button.